Hello there. I'm SharRon Jamison from the Jamison Group, and I hope you are having a great Saturday. And I thought I would stop in for a little bit today because I know that I am in transition, and I know that there are others in transition. And transition is an interesting place because transition sometimes don't feel comfortable. They don't feel fun. And so today I wanted to really distinguish between when you are going through a transition. Hey, hey Tanya, when you're going through a transition, the difference between being wounded and being weaned. Being wounded and being weaned. Hey Chris, because when you are being wounded, that is about going through pain and going through a problem, whereas being weaned is about preparation. It's about promise. And if we are not able to discern between when we are being wounded and when we are being weaned for something, we will miss our opportunity for success, and we will miss our opportunity to go to the next level. Again, wounded is about feeling as if you're being roughed up, and wean is about feeling like you're being released to go to a different level. You are losing your dependence on something so that you can be better, bigger, and bolder. And I took some notes today because I am grappling with this issue in my life, and I thought I would share with you. The first difference between being wounded, which is to cause pain, and being weaned to prepare you for your next level is wounding destroys you, but weaning develops you. And so even when we are being destroyed, many times what is being attacked is our credibility, our person. That's the easiest way for somebody to hurt you, is to destroy who you are and to destroy your image and to destroy who you feel about yourself. That's destroying your credibility. That's wounding. But weaning is when it's developing your character, because weaning allows you to get accustomed to attacks, because the next level always has a bigger and badder devil. And we have to prepare ourselves for success. And one of the things that we have to always develop is our character. So that character determines what we will do and what we will not do, what we will say and what we will not say. It determines where we draw the line in the sand so that we don't become so seduced by success that we lose our morality trying to get what we want to get. So when we are being prepared for the next level, we go through that weaning process. And that weaning process works to develop our character. Again, wounding is about destroying your credibility. Weaning is about developing your character. The next difference is, and I took some notes, is that wounding crushes your spirit. It makes you feel bad. It makes you feel low. It makes you feel inferior. Weaning corrects your journey, because sometimes we are on a path that is not our destination. And at many times in our lives, we have to have something to correct us, to course correct, so we don't end up in places that we are not destined or called to be. And so when we are, hey Emily, so when we are when we are dealing with being weaned, it's all about correcting your journey. Again, being crushed is about really crushing your spirit. Being corrected is about preparing you for your journey. The third thing that's a difference is that wounding frustrates you, but weaning fortifies you. When we are getting weaned to go to the next level so that we can honor our divine call, when we are getting wounded, we're getting frustrated. We're getting frustrated because nothing is working. We get frustrated because we're feeling betrayed. We get frustrated because we feel like we don't have resources. Hey, Lucky. So when we are being wounded, we get frustrated. But when we are being weaned, we are being fortified. We are being strengthened. We are being prepared. The weaning helps us provide a foundation so that we can answer our divine call. Because without a foundation, you will have no ability to go up. Because the higher you go, the more grounded you have to be. Because when you are going up, you will face new challenges, new crises, new problems. And so that's why I always tell people, be careful what you pray for. Don't pray for elevation if you're scared of heights, because you will deal with all types of devils, with all types of demons, with all types of distractions, all types of things that will try to disrupt you and derail you. So know the difference. Again, so when we look at what wounding is all about, frustration, being weaned is about being fortified so you can handle the pressure, because success causes extra weight. And we get so intoxicated because we see people being successful, but we don't know their story. We don't know their struggle. We don't know what they had to do to be able to navigate in this different arena. So always know that there's a difference. The fourth thing that's a difference, and I have my notes, is that wounding ends relationships. Wounding ends relationships because people say things, people do things, people hurt you. So wounding is about hurting you, hurting your spirit, hurting your power, making you feel as if you are less than. That's wounding. Weaning enlightens you, because as you are going up the ladder of success, you are going to need different people. And what weaning does, it releases you from being dependent on one group of people and helps and enlightens you to who you need so that you can be who you want to be and who you need to be now. So we got to think about, again, the difference is wounding ends relationships and weaning enlightens who should be in relationship with you. It's a difference, and we got to be able to identify the difference, lest we try to take all relationships into new places, unless we try to take myopic people into meaningful places, unless we try to take people who are damaging and destructive and are codependent in places of abundance and fulfillment. We got to know the difference, and we have to be able to discern what's happening. And if you want to share this, please feel free. Thank you so much. Somebody already inboxed me. Thank you. The last thing I want to talk about, where it says, what's the difference? When you are being wounded exploits your weaknesses and exposes your weaknesses. When people are trying to wound you, they do all that they can do to, again, hurt your character by letting people know all your secrets, by letting people know all your dysfunction. And we all have some dysfunctional areas, and we all have some deficiencies. That's wounded. When you are being weaned, what it does is it exposes your weaknesses, but it exposes your weaknesses in a way to help you see what you need for the next level. It exposes what you need to be equipped. So one exposes you, that's wounding. Weaning helps to identify the equipment you need to answer your divine call. It's a difference. So when we are able to sit back and discern, to ask our question, are we being wounded? And which means pain and problems, or are we being weaned? Are we being released? Is something happening in our life to prepare us, to help us plan, to help us proceed? There's a difference, and we have to make sure that we don't get so caught up in the transition that we miss an opportunity to move forward. Again, wounding and being weaned. One is about hurting you, one is about helping you. One is about lowering you, one is about liberating you. One is about keeping you stuck, one is about preparing you for success. So the question might be, now that we know the difference between wounding and weaning, what allows us, what gives us a signal that we're shifting, that we are moving from woundedness to weaning so that we can answer our divine call? When do we know? When do we sense it? And this is why it's so important to not, if you're not religious, be spiritual, because we need the gift of discernment, because we'll never be successful without understanding that there's a higher power, I call the power of God, orchestrating people and places and things to our highest good. Hey, David. So I want to give you 7 things to know the difference. When you are transitioning and you are being taken from one level to a higher level, from one situation to another situation. And then remember, it's not about moving from geography, it's about moving in mentality. So what's the difference? One, you will shift from feeling cluttered in your mind, in your heart, and your spirit, from feeling clear. How do you know you're shifting? You are cluttered. You can't focus. You are ambivalent. You are juggling options. You feel indecisive. That's when you're in that space. But when you start feeling that shift, you'll feel a clarity. You know what you're going to do. You know why you're going to do it. And when we understand our why, we know our way. And we have learned how to do the what after. But that's the difference. We see that feeling. We also move from being reticent to being vague to being resolved. And when we are resolved, we know what we're going to do. We don't know how we're going to do it. We don't care who's for us. We don't care who's against us. We're not looking for applause. We're not looking for acknowledgement. We are not looking for acceptance. We are not looking for validation. We don't care, because when you move to a place of resolve, that's when you are your most courageous, because you are not trying to win friends and family. You're saying, listen, I am in transition. I was vague, I was reticent, but now I'm resolved. I'm clear. This is what I'm going to do, and this is what I'm going to be. We also move, you know that you are making a transition effectively when you move from being timid and scared of everything and doubtful to when you get tough, when you get not only spiritually tough, but when you get tenderhearted. Why? Because when you are doing things and answering your divine call, that's a heart-centered move. So God doesn't harden your heart. God keeps your heart open, but God gives you a resolve in your mind, right? Because our mind is where our data lies. The mind is a symbol of leadership. Your mind is what is your mentality that moves you forward. And you know that you're moving because you start having a renewed mind. And to have a renewed mind, you have to put something new in your mind. Because if you don't put new information in your mind, it's not a renewed mind, it's a recycled mind. And anything that's recycled is never as good as the original. So we got to make sure that we are careful to make sure that we can make that shift. Hey, Sandra, to make that shift, to understand, yes, I was timid because I wasn't clear. I didn't know what I was going to do. But I'm clear now. So I'm tough. I'm resolved. I am tenderhearted. I'm still listening to God and to others. And then we have to make sure that when we are in that transition, it's a difference. You move from feeling scattered to strategic. Yes, David, I agree. Humble people are actually rich in spirit. I agree with you. You move from being scattered to being strategic. Why? When you are scattered, that's when you're not powerful, because you're doing a little bit of this and a little bit of that, and you're over here and you're over there. And then one of the ways that the enemy uses to prevent us from being successful is to keep you scattered, because your energy is diffused, your effort is diffused. When you're successful, you are focused, you are doing the essentials, you are only engaged with things that move the needle. So how do we know that we're transitioning? First, you were scattered. You were doing a little bit of this and a little bit of that and a little bit over here and a little bit over there. But when you move to strategic, you're able to sit down and say, okay, these are my cards. How will I proceed? What is my strategy? What is my system? What is my support? Where I'm going? And you establish milestones so that you know that you're not there when you get there. Milestones, we measure everything. We don't move blindly because we're clear. So we move from being scattered to being strategic. Fifth thing is that you know that you're moving into that powerful place when you dump the dysfunctional people and you gather with the gifted. Again, when you dump the dysfunction and you gather with the gifted. Why? When you know and you're clear on what you have been commissioned to do, you can never do a dream by yourself. Because if God gave you something that you can do with your own two hands, that's a small vision. God always gives something for us to do that's going to impact the world that we need other people. So you have to move from hanging with the foolish and get with the functional. You have to get away from the clueless and get with the creative. You have to move from the pessimist to the positive. You have to make that shift, because when you gather with the gifted, those are your resources. And now, when we talk about resources, when you are moving into your place of what God will want you to be, you gotta be willing to know that when you gather with the gifted, be ready to connect with people who don't look like you. Because people who are sent to you to help your divine call might not be kin to you, and they might not be skin to you. And we got to be okay, because when you are being shifted to the higher level, God is not going to send people with the exact same gifting. Why? Because people with the same gift, y'all going to be in each other's lane, and you will compete versus collaborate. God is going to look at what you need and send those people, because for every task, there's a team, and for every gap, God's going to send a group. So we got to be careful that we're open ourselves up to know that we will connect with people who don't look like us. That's the one thing. Two, we have to make sure that we're willing to collaborate without getting all the credit. The challenge with some people is that they won't work with people if their name is not first. But if God tells you to do something, who cares if your name is first? Who cares? I think that's going to be important when we start thinking about if we're transitioning to be bigger and better. So what if your name's not first? Listen, if the bus is leaving, jump on it, and jump on it in a way that you can be as successful as you feel desirous, and as successful as you feel that God is telling you to be. So we got to be careful. Oh, yes, Lucky. Yes, indeed. Spirit, energy, alignment. Absolutely. You got to be in alignment. And alignment means that a person has to not only have your perspective and your mindset, but they have to have your rhythm. It's nothing worse than working with a person and they have a different rhythm. And because everything has to be orchestrated. Success is an orchestra. It's a symphony. And we all have to be going on the same line. We all have to be in concert. You can't be doing this and I'm doing this. We got to be in collaboration, and that's all about rhythm. It's all about virtue. It's all about ethics. It's all about energy. We got to be okay with that. The third thing that we have to do when we are gathering with the gifted, I'd say connect, collaborate. The next thing that we have to contract, and that's what a lot of people get hung up. What I mean to contract means you got to pay some money, because some of the training that you need ain't gonna be free. And if you get free, it might look like it's free. If you feel that God has given you a Bentley dream, stop trying to drive the Honda. And because so many times, I even know with my clients, people have Bentley dreams, but they have, gremlins mentality. And so we got to make sure that we're willing to contract to get the resources that we need, because if we're going to gather with the gifted wants to be paid. The gifted wants to be paid. They don't want no prayer. They want some payment. And so we got to make sure that we're praying and giving some payment and be willing, because everything wants to offer. We talk about church wants to offer it. Everything wants to offer it. And that means the offering of your gifts, of offering of your talents and your techniques and your time. So we got to make sure that you're willing to invest in yourself. If not, you're going to stay stuck versus being able to transition. Dave says, what if you're unknowingly living in dysfunction yourself? Therefore, how could you recognize functionality in others? That's a good question. I think we all are living in some type of dysfunction. But part of self-mastery, to me, is being aware of your dysfunction. And part of self-mastery is loving yourself enough to allow people to speak into your lives. Because none of us becomes our best selves by ourselves. We only see in part. And we only see and like to see the good part. So we need other people to show us our blind spots. And we have to love ourselves and let people invest in us. I call them loving stakeholders, by being able to give us loving critique and let us know that we're living in dysfunction. Because sometimes we have lived in dysfunction so long that dysfunction is our norm. And we don't even realize it, because we've been living in hell so long, we think hell is heaven. And we got to be mindful of that. But that's a great question. The sixth thing to know when you're making a transition. Hey, Tella. is that you move from being skeptical to spiritual. Now, why do I say that when you're making that transition? Because you're realizing that the ways that your life is changing, there has to be somebody and a power orchestrating all of that. When I think about my life and see all the things that have happened, somebody, some power had to be orchestrating people, places, and things to set me up in the way that I'm being set up. So we move from being skeptical to moving to being spiritual, understanding that our power, that our resources, that everything we need is spiritual. Success is spiritual. So we realize that we have to move from being in this place of doubt to moving to a place of devotion. We have to move from a place of being questioning to being in a place of clarity. Hey, Stephen, it's a movement. And then the last thing, the seventh thing, because 7 is the number of completion. When you're moving to that shifting and you realize that you're shifting, you're going to you go from saying, God, help me, and God, why me, to God, help me, but use me. And when you are making that transition, you're saying, okay, God, I don't understand it, but I am available. I'm willing to be a vessel. I'm not perfect, but I'm willing. And it's a subtle shift. And it's a subtle feeling that you go from why me to use me. And because when you're spiritual, you realize even though you don't have everything, but you know that since you have a vision, God will give provision. And so you follow your provision. So that's really, really important. You move and take all those shifts. Now, why is all this important? When we are going through this transition, people are going to tell us, oh, you think you're something, you think you're different, you think you're changing. Guess what? Don't fight them. It's true. Because when you are going through transition, you are changing, you are becoming new, and sometimes you don't see the transition because it's so subtle, but people around you see the transition. And so when they tell you that you are changing, don't get mad, be happy, because something is happening that even if you don't recognize it, the energy is shifting. Your energy, the vibes are shifting, things are shifting, and people are seeing the difference, and they're seeing that you're not of them, which is great. And so you move into your blessed place. Hey, Lisa, Dr. Lisa. So know when people are telling you that you're shifting, don't think that's bad. Just say, great, it's confirmation. And when they say that you're shifting, guess what? Agree with them, because you are. If you are not shifting, that means that the weaning didn't work. And if the weaning didn't work, guess what? You got to repeat the lesson. You cannot go to the next grade without getting a lesson. And my pastor always says that lessons are given not at the college of compliance or the college of convenience or the college of comfort, but at the University of Adversity. So if you have not learned a lesson, you have not been weaned from your old ways, weaned from your old mentality, weaned for your old habits, guess what? You got to repeat the lesson. So it's blessing when people see that there's change. And again, people around you might see the change quicker than you are because you're in it. And when you're in it, you don't see it, but just know that that's a blessing. Also understand that when you're in the change, you're transitioning from who you are, when you leave in your history and you are moving to your destiny, it's so important to know that people will leave you. Good question. People will leave you, but we have to understand that loyalty is not a leash. We got to be careful with that, because some people use loyalty as a leash. They are still relating to you as they know. Yes, when people start relating to you as who you used to be, it prevents you from doing what you need to do. And you can't hold on to your history and the destiny at the same time. You'll be pulled. So what you have to do in that transition is release the history, move on to your destiny, and which means that some people might be left alone by themselves, and they need to. So we have to understand that loyalty will work against us, and we got to be resolute and courageous enough to say, listen, this is not loyalty, this is a leash. And this leash is holding you hostage to who you need to be. Why? Because there's some people in your life will love you to death. to the death of your dreams, to the death of your goals, to the death of who you want to be, because they are scared that if you leave them, they will be stuck in misery alone. So we got to be careful that, Lord, when people are pulling the leashes, that you pull away and that you don't stay stuck to make somebody else comfortable. Don't stay in the dysfunction because somebody's going to be upset. So be careful, be mindful that when you're going in transition, relationships will be severed. Habits will be changed. And can I say this? That when you're going into that transition, it's a lonely place. I want us to be okay with the loneliness and know it's just part of the journey. I have to tell you, I'm in a very lonely place in my life now because people thought I was going to do one thing, but it's not that I didn't know. I knew that my life was going to be bigger because I would have not been through 2 divorces, depression, eating disorders, 9 surgeries last year alone, if I didn't think that God was going to use all those experiences. So I knew that I was not being wounded, I was being weaned, which meant let me know that I was being prepared. I should just know for what? To be okay with the isolation. Know that the isolation, think of it as an incubator. And you are being prepared, you're being molded, you're being worked on, you're being changed, you're being challenged, you're being equipped, you're being empowered. So yes, you're isolated, but you're incubating to make sure that you're prepared to answer your divine call. So this has been on my heart, and that I've been God is dealing with me with this wound, being weaned, and knowing that I'm losing a lot, but I know that I'm gaining a lot. But I also know what much is given, much is required. And so I want to encourage you to, if you're in that transition, when you are, make sure you can easily discern between being wounded and being weaned. And when you're being weaned, no, it's a transition. And don't starting and don't give up, because sometimes what happens is that we get into this place that we start being more desirous of prison because versus moving on. Just know, be engaged. Don't fall in love with your captivity. Don't start to be delighted by your dungeon. It is your time. It's your turn, Trina. Yes. Preparation in isolation, absolutely. So I want to go over it. You know that you are in that transition and on the way to the other side. When you go from feeling cluttered to feeling clear. Thank you. Oh, thank you, Lucky. When you go from being reticent to being resolved. When you move from being timid to tough in mind but tender in heart. When you go from feeling scattered to strategic. When you leave dysfunctional people and you start to gather with the gifted, when you move from being skeptical to spiritual, and when you move from asking God, why me, to God, use me. And when you are doing that, that's when you are moving from woundedness to being weaned. And when you move from winning, here's the good stuff, it's time to win. So just know it's wounded, winged, and win. And guess what? Know that transition is not going to be easy. It's incremental, but know it's your turn. It's your time. You are set up to be your best self. It is time to win. So I want to encourage you, as I am encouraging myself. I had to preach to myself this morning. So I hope that you don't mind eavesdropping on my conversations that I have in my head. But it's time to win. Stockholm Syndrome. Yes, Dr. Lisa. So I just want to encourage you. Also, y'all need to connect with Dr. Lisa. She has a great sense of some products. She's into health and wellness. I'll put her link in below. Thank you, Lisa, Dr. Lisa. Thank you, everyone, for hey, Kevin. We miss you at Victory, Kevin, for staying. Thank you for your comments. Thank you for being here with me. Thank you for just letting me share my heart. And if you're in this transition, just know you pray for me. I pray for you. The best is about to come for all of us. And if you don't mind, if you know someone in transition, please share this video. And hopefully that they will be edified and as God is magnified. So share the video if you will. Again, thanks so much. And let's dare to soar higher, and blessings to you always. Let women, David said, when someone's paradigm of view is challenged, they most likely will say you're the cause of the struggle to their shift. Absolutely. And paradigms are prisons. Paradigms keep us complacent. Paradigms are cages. And the great thing about it is when you get clear, you can reestablish your paradigm, because at the end of the day, your paradigm is really between you and God. And as God guides you to do, as God guides you, you will be galvanized. Yes. So thanks so much for sharing this video. Thanks so much for being with me. Listen, be with me on Monday. Monday is my birthday. I will be 50 again. I'm 54 again. So please share with me. I'm going to be sharing around 9 o'clock. God has laid a message on my heart. So I hope for you to join me on Monday. I'll do a Facebook Live at 9 o'clock. And thanks so much, Casimir and Dr. Lisa. Sherry, y'all should hook up with Sherry. Sherry has a great health product too. So Sherry, put that link in this thread. And Dr. Lisa, will you put your link in your thread? And also, if y'all ever need a speaker, David Brewer is amazing. David Brewer is an amazing, amazing speaker. So yes. So see you on Monday at 10 o'clock. And thanks again, and blessings to you always. God bless you. Let's dare to soar higher.